We have some breaking news. It's just been reported that Vice President Kamala Harris is going to be introducing a policy to stop companies from price gouging and to lower the cost of groceries. This Friday, Harris is going to put forward a federal ban on corporate price gouging on groceries and impose stiff penalties in the food industry. The Harris campaign is labeling this bill as the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries, setting clear rules of the road to make clear that big corporations can't unfairly exploit consumers to run up excessive corporate profits on food and groceries. The campaign also singled out the highly consolidated meatpacking industry, noting how just 4 meat processors control the market and arguing, quote, the lack of competition gives these middlemen the power to drive down earnings for farmers while driving up prices for consumers. So Kamala Harris is putting forward policy to lower your bill at the grocery store and to prevent these companies in the future from artificially raising these prices. Seems pretty great, huh? Like Donald Trump hasn't put out any policy like this. He wants these billionaires and these big corporations to just run up the prices and make a bigger profit. Whereas Kamala Harris is looking out for you and your grocery bill. This is a great policy and a great move by the Harris campaign.
Oh, Harry. Don't quit your day job. Stick to TikTok because economics, babe, is not your thing. There are so many problems with this radical left-wing idea that I genuinely don't know where to begin. But first and foremost, the fundamental premise behind it is false. Increases in grocery prices are not driven by corporate greed or price gouging. Nothing magically happened in 2021 where corporations got suddenly much greedier. I want to show you guys a graph of the price of eggs from 2014 to about 2023, and it shows it skyrocketing and coming back down and then going back up and then skyrocketing during a huge crisis in 2022, and they told us this was about greed. But that doesn't make any sense unless you think that they go through cycles where they rediscover greed and then forget greed and then rediscover greed and then forget greed. Companies are always charging whatever price will maximize their profits. That can't be what's behind the increase in grocery prices the last few years because it hasn't changed. It's been the case for all of our lives. And according to an NYU survey that the economist Scott Lincecum pointed out on Twitter, the American grocery industry has just a 1.18% net profit margin last year. Even the industry giants like Kroger's net profit margin was 1.43%. Even in food processing, it's just a 6% profit margin, and in farming and agriculture, it's a 7.12% profit margin. That's well below the national average of a profit margin, guys. So price controls wouldn't fix this problem because they don't actually address the fundamental reason that prices are high in the first place, which has to do with supply chain disruptions from the pandemic lockdowns, interjections of massive amounts of stimulus money into the economy, and the printing of trillions of dollars out of thin air. But what price controls would do is reduce the supply of the food and of the groceries that people need to buy because they would limit the ability of companies to actually make a profit on the product, given that the margins are already so slim. And so what you'd end up with is shortages. This isn't speculation, guys. We actually tried a series of price and wage controls in the 1970s in a hope to tamp down on inflation. And guess what happened? Massive shortages of things like gasoline that were price controlled with lines and people waiting for hours and hours just to get to the gas station, and they were all out of gas. It is not a coincidence that economists almost universally, almost every single economist out there that you can find and you can survey, rejects price controls as a solution to high prices. Because it's like putting a band-aid on a bullet hole, except it actually isn't even like that because it makes the problem worse in the long run. Now, none of this is to say that the current levels of grocery prices are just fine and dandy and Americans just need to suck it up and pick themselves up by their bootstraps. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is this Kamala idea is crazy and would make things worse, not better. Now, if we actually wanted to reduce grocery prices, one of the things we could do is lift the massive amounts of taxes that the US government currently imposes on the importation of groceries and food from overseas. In 2021, the USDA estimated that the elimination of US agricultural tariffs would increase consumer well-being by $3.5 billion a year. Just an economic way of saying how much consumers would save. So if Kamala Harris or Donald Trump or any of our other elected leaders actually want to help Americans out with lowering grocery prices, there is something they can do, but it's absolutely not returning to failed socialist price controls. That's just my take. If you guys disagree, I do want to hear from you, but it's going to be a tough sell convincing me to ever support this kind of idea.